Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Loomer Unleashed. I'm your host, Laura Loomer. On today's episode of Loomer Unleashed, we're going to talk about whether or not President Donald Trump is going to be arrested. On Friday, there was a news report that came out that said that federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies were having discussions about how to prepare in case President Donald Trump was criminally charged and indicted in New York City this week. These charges stem from an alleged hush money payment that people say President Donald Trump paid to Stormy Daniels. Now, President Donald Trump denies ever sleeping or having sexual relations with Stormy Daniels, but his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, says that the president instructed him to give Stormy Daniels a hush money payment of $130,000, something that President Trump's current attorney says is not illegal. In a statement released by President Trump's campaign, they said, President Donald J. Trump is completely innocent. He did nothing wrong, and even the biggest, most radical left Democrats are making that clear. Now, the next thing that you're probably wondering is who exactly is bringing these charges against President Donald Trump. Well, it's the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, who the president and his campaign staff have branded as a Soros-tied district attorney. And it's all true. He's another radical leftist who wants open borders and is soft on crime. While he's trying to weaponize the government and abuse his power to target and take down President Donald Trump, the best president we've ever had, over a non-crime and a non-issue, he's allowed for the streets of New York City to essentially become war zones with daily stabbings, armed robberies, and record-high crime that is making people flee New York in droves. The idea that President Donald Trump could in fact be arrested this week is absolutely unprecedented. We have truly reached a breaking point and the absolute breakdown of not only our Constitution and the rule of law, but due process. We've seen this in the way that the government has been weaponized against conservative Americans, and we now undeniably have a two-tier justice system. And even though we're in the midst of what's looking to be a highly contentious 2024 GOP presidential primary, the issue of preserving our Constitution, preserving rule of law, and preserving due process rights transcends the daily dramas that are associated with a primary on a presidential campaign. And that is why you would expect every single candidate who aspires to be a frontrunner in the GOP 2024 primary to issue a statement condemning these actions against President Donald Trump. Because at the end of the day, you want a leader, regardless of who it ends up being, who is actually going to fight for the rule of law, fight for the Constitution, and do what's right, regardless of whether or not they like somebody. You don't want a leader or a president in the White House who is only going to choose who gets their due process rights or who has their constitutional rights respected based on whether or not they like that person. I mention this because it seems like every single person in the Republican Party is outraged over this, except those who you would expect to be the loudest. And of course, I'm talking about you, Ron DeSanctimonious. I'm talking about you, Nikki Haley.
You're talking about this situation with, and look, I don't know what goes into paying hush money to a porn star to secure silence over some type of alleged affair. I can't speak to that.
You mean to tell me that these two politicians who essentially were nobody, no-name individuals until President Donald Trump gave them endorsements and elevated them, turning them into household GOP names, couldn't even stand up for the man that gave them so many opportunities? I think it's fair to say that President Donald Trump is going to go down in history as one, the best president our country has ever had, and two, the most persecuted president our country has ever seen. And this is where the radical left and the GOP establishment gets it wrong. They seem to think that they're going to take Donald Trump out and completely destabilize his campaign by having him indicted and arrested. They seem to think that that's going to dissuade people from wanting to vote for him, when in reality, the exact opposite is happening. The base is more mobilized than ever before, and people are fired up talking about how they're going to protest in the streets, peacefully, of course, and how they're going to vote for Donald Trump as a statement. Even people who don't necessarily like President Donald Trump were talking over the weekend on social media about how, for the sake of making a point and fighting back against the weaponization of government, they are going to vote for Donald Trump in 2024. Even Elon Musk, the new owner and CEO of Twitter, tweeted, "If this happens, Trump will be reelected in a landslide victory." One thing is certain, whatever happens this week, whether it's a possible arrest and indictment or the kickoff of President Trump's campaign with his first official rally in Waco, Texas, it's going to be a very eventful news week, and I will be on the ground in Florida reporting on all of it and providing you with up-to-date reports. For more exclusive updates and investigative journalism, please be sure that you subscribe to my Substack today. You can subscribe at lauraloomer.substack.com, and please also be sure you're following me on Truth Social, Gab, Twitter, and Getter at Laura Loomer. The content on my Substack is free, but if you would like to support me, you can do so by subscribing for a small fee of $7 per month or $70 per year. And speaking of the weaponization of government, the IRS has recently expanded itself to include an additional 87,000 agents to terrorize you, your families, and possibly use deadly force if necessary. That is why we must do everything in our power to fight back against this tyranny and oppression. So I would like to thank the sponsor of today's video, freedomlawschool.org. It's tax season, and if you need advice on your taxes, please contact the good folks at freedomlawschool.org and tell them that Laura Loomer sent you. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Loomer Unleashed. See you next time.